Gothatfunk had a 5-question challenge, which I did a video for, obviously, because it's the last video I have on YouTube before I put this one up. He answered my questions, but now it's time for me to answer some questions, and you sent me some really good ones. Yeah. It's taken me a while to ponder some of these. I was like, whoa. Like, some of them I can answer kind of like sort of quickly, though it takes a little background explanation. And others I'm still sort of musing over. But, yeah, these were good questions. They definitely were fun to think about. So, let's get on with it. So question 1 is on song choices. Basically, I guess this is sort of like the fiction one. I had asked, what work of fiction, helped to influence you. The Prophet, by the way, is a good pick. That's actually one of my favorite books. But now you're asking me for what song had influenced, my worldview. And this one's kind of hard because, as anybody who's watched my older videos can guess, I'm a major lover of music. I've listened to all types, and music's one of those things that kind of, especially if you listen to it a lot, music's one of those things that kind of marks off certain time periods in your life. There's a song for almost every occasion. But then, we're talking about songs that influenced my thinking or influenced how I see the world, and that narrowed things down a bit, though there were still a lot of songs. I mean, we can go with Nas's It Ain't Hard to Tell, or we can go with K Solo's King of the Mountain, which actually is a runner-up for what I think is a song that influenced me, because it did. But I think, in light of everything and thinking about how my life is going now and the direction I've been putting it into in my philosophy, I'm going to have to go with Bob Marley's Ambush in the Night. For those of you who haven't heard it, look it up. You can find it on YouTube, and you can easily find the lyrics online. It's a song that, if you listen to the lyrics, it kind of I heard this song when I was really young. And even then, I was kind of struck with the picture it was painting. I got the image in my head of somebody who knows how corrupt governments can be and how corrupt governments can get. It's a tool, but it can get corrupted by, unscrupulous people. And how easily the masses can be tricked by these unscrupulous people, even to the point where they will help them strike down someone who is trying to wake them up with all the bullshit that's around them. This wasn't easy, especially since I'm not one of those people that actively follow actors. I know several of my friends can, right off the bat, they start naming actors' names off and talking about their careers and how good they are. I'm not one of those people. Sorry, if I watch a movie, I watch a movie. If the actor's good, okay, yeah, he's good. And that's it. I don't follow careers. So, you'd have to be really, really notable, whether good or bad, for me to know who you are as an actor. So, yeah, this took some thinking and a bit of research on actors' names and their histories and stuff like that, since, like I said, I don't follow actors all that well. And I finally came up with a list of names. Got the list here. Had to write them down. And, yeah, these are the names I came up with. First choice is my mom. And this one took a while. I narrowed this down to 2 people. Jada Pinkett Smith and Angela Bassett. Both those actresses, I feel, could play the role pretty damn well and give off that level of sweet, but then at the same time, don't fuck with me. But I can only pick one actress to play the role. So after a whole lot of mental wrangling and, discussing it with my wife back and forth, we finally decided, you know what? Fuck it. We'll go with Angela Bassett. I think she has a little bit more experience in, I guess, playing the more motherly type roles. On to my dad. This was also another really hard choice because I couldn't really think of At first, anyway, I couldn't really think of anybody who would be able to play him. My father is a bit of a complex guy. He's a bit of a complex dude, so you need somebody who'd be able to play complex characters or at least know how to character act really, really well. Which, once I thought of it that way, pretty much only gave me one choice. Don Cheadle, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. If you've looked at all the different roles that that man has played, you'd realize that this guy can play characters very well. He's a very good character actor, which means that he would play my dad really well. For my wife, this took some digging. I needed to pick somebody smart enough and quirky enough to play the role and also have a little bit of a rebellious streak to her as well. I finally settled on Kristen Vangnas, the one who plays as Penelope in that drama Criminal Minds. I think she could do the part well. I don't watch Criminal Minds, so I couldn't say, but from the little bit of clips I saw and from the interviews I've seen her in, I think she could do it. Now, the best friend. This was tough because I have several people who I would consider a best friend in the sense that I know if any shit went down, they'd have my back in an instant. They're very, very close to me and my wife, and in some cases, they're considered family. So, yeah, they would fit the best friend role. So only picking one person was kind of rough, so I kind of cheated a little bit and went with 3 people. Hope you don't mind. First person's a friend of mine named Amber. And this was a fairly easy choice, one of the easier ones I had to pick. Fairuza Balk would definitely play her. So I would need an actress who can play both fragile and strong and rebellious with a little side of manic. And that would be Fairuza Balk. I'm pretty sure she could play that role. Next up is Kevin Biomek, who I do consider as a really good friend. And he was also a bit of an easy choice, though if he's watching this right now, I don't know whether he's going to laugh at this choice or not or whatever, but who I would pick for Kevin? Edward Norton. No contest. Next up is a friend of mine named Nick. You guys don't know him, but you've seen him. In fact, if you go to my channel and you look at the video I have featured right now, the dude who I'm crossing blades with, that's Nick. And this took a little bit of thinking and wrangling, and I really couldn't think of who it would be until my wife came up with a suggestion. And at first, I was exactly, I wasn't, gung-ho for the idea, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized it kind of fit. Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman is my friend Nick. It could work. Oh, yeah, then we got to pick me. Yeah, this also took a while. I guess there's a little bit of vanity's sake in making sure that you pick somebody who you think could play you really well. But honest to say, from me looking over all the shit that I went through in my life so far and the different philosophical angles I took even as a child, I would, need somebody who'd be willing to go through the whole range of different emotions and angles and events that I went through. After some thinking, going over different names, looking over the people who can no longer play me, looking at people who I thought could play me but ended up being too freaking tall or whatever, I finally decided on Lorenz Tate. And this was after a suggestion by, interestingly enough, my friend Amber, because she was the one who, I mentioned this to her, and she was like, I'd pick Lorenz Tate. And I'm like, really? And then I looked at the movies he was in, because I've seen a couple of his movies, and the guy has a good acting range, and I think he could do it. And I guess also, well, you can't really pick, Lorenz can't play me as a kid, so if I had to pick a kid, please don't laugh, guys, but it was the only person I could think of. Jaden Smith. The kid has proven to me that he can act in that new Karate Kid movie, plus the kid does know martial arts, and I was into martial arts when I was a kid. Didn't really know anything yet. I copied stuff from movies as a kid, but I copied it really fucking well. This was somewhat of a hard choice because there were a lot. On one hand, I think that I've lived a rather boring existence, more or less. So finding an interesting event would be kind of hard. Then again, there have been things that I've gone through that some people would consider interesting, like the fact that I helped to organize rallies while I was in college. Or for those who want something more action-oriented, maybe a more interesting time would be when I was training with my friend Ishmael, who I would have listed as under my best friends, but I have no idea where the hell Ishmael is these days. I've lost touch with him years ago. I have no idea what he's up to. I hope he's doing well. Last I heard, he was in Texas somewhere. But he was the guy who really he was my first real martial arts instructor, and he's the one who put my shit together. But yeah, I guess that would be an interesting time for the biopic. Plus, people would get to see fists and feet flying around, so they'd probably find that a bit more entertaining. But what I think would probably be the most interesting is, I guess, the time that me and my wife were homeless for about a month and a half. Yeah, that was an interesting fucking time. I guess that would probably be the most interesting thing to pick for the biopic, I guess. So, there. A best friend of mine confides in me that they ran over a homeless person. And there's no evidence whatsoever on the car. No forensic evidence, no blood, no skin, no bits of clothing. There's no dent on the car. There's no scrapes, scratches, nothing. So basically that person can get away scot-free. There's nothing on the car to suggest that anything happened. And the friend doesn't want to report this to the cops. Would I report it to the cops, however? This, of course, was a tough question. Not just because of the moral implications of turning in your best friend, but let's also get into the fact that there is no evidence whatsoever that this happened. I've seen many car accidents over the years. Even if you slightly tap someone, there's evidence. There's something. If there's absolutely nothing on the car, then there is a very good chance that my friend actually hallucinated this event. That it really didn't happen. I would be questioning them, were you fucking drunk driving at the time? Are you sure you hit something? Because if there is nothing on your car, I find this to be highly suspect. But if the guy is willing to insist that, no, damn it, I hit somebody. I know I hit them, but no, I am not going to tell the cops. I'd have a problem with my friend right off for the simple reason that, look, I would understand you don't want to face jail time. I know. Especially in this country. You don't want to face jail time. But this was still a human life we're dealing with here, okay? It's still life. Yeah, he's living destitute. He has no home. He has no prospects, no job. The friends he would know, if he did have friends, are probably other vagrants, but it's still a human life. Somebody knew who he was. The guy deserves to not just simply be some unknown. There's probably somebody who's wondering, whatever happened to Uncle Jake? They need to know. They have a right to understand what happened, even in this final miserable moments. They need to, they deserve to know. So if my friend is going to insist that this really happened despite the lack of evidence of this, which I know that would have to be some, I would report it. But I would do this under the caveat that I myself would go out there to see if I could find any, evidence that somebody got splattered there. Blood splatter, blood patterns and on the road. Would there be a body there? And if I saw it myself, then I would definitely call the cops over to it. And I would hope to at least get my friend to understand that, look, you took a life. At least if plead manslaughter or something, and they might reduce the charge, but you took a life. And I know I'm making myself look flippant. I'm not being flippant about this. This is not as if I'm making this like an easy freaking answer. Like, yeah, you hit him, the hell with it. You gotta go to jail. Fuck it. Go to the cops. No, I mean, it would not be easy for me, especially if my friend doesn't want to turn himself in. But the fact is, it was somebody. Just because he's homeless doesn't mean that he's not somebody. And the guy deserves some bit of respect. Some people need to know what happened to him. His family, if you can find out who his family is or his friends are, they need to know what happened to him. So that is ultimately what would make me choose to report this to the cops. On the condition that this actually freaking happened. Because, to be honest, if there's absolutely no evidence on the car, it's highly suspect that anything happened.
Okay. Jesus fucking Christ. I was doing some editing of these five answers to the questions, when I realized as I was typing down the actual questions that I got the last one wrong. What I mean is, I got the question wrong. I answered the question as if the question was, how do I think the human species is going to go out? Are we going to end up evolving into a different set of species or subspecies? Or are we going to do ourselves in? Like, by wiping ourselves out, or, somehow like through nuclear war or, through like pollution or whatever. That's not the question that was asked me, however. The actual question was, how do I see human beings being phased out? Because extinction is going to face humanity eventually. But how is it going to happen? Is it going to be happening through speciation? And are we going to, evolve into a different species? Is no longer Homo sapiens sapiens? Or are we just going to die out? I know it sounds similar, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same question. I was answering the other one as either through going to a different species or we do ourselves in. Gothatfunk didn't say did we do ourselves in as the second part. It's just simply die out. That leaves it completely open-ended to not just, us killing ourselves off, but through just simply natural forces. Disease, a comet hitting us, sooner or later weakening. So, yeah, the way I answered this, while it kind of works, I'm realizing now I have to adjust my answer. So, yeah, I am not fucking happy whatsoever. I have to redo this all the fuck over again. So, yeah, here we go, and I'm going to try to answer this as best as possible. My answer is generally the same. It's basically the same in that the way I answered it before when I was answering this with the, what I thought was the question was I think it was kind of a mix of both. In the sense, I do think that human beings aren't special in the fact that we won't face some form of extinction. Our species in itself will sooner or later have to, march down the road of entropy. Everything in nature sooner or later is going to break down and decay or destroy at some point or another. The human race is no exception. Now, the question is, how are we going to go that route? Are we simply going to end up becoming a different species, or are we just simply going to die out? In a weird sort of way, it is a combination of the two, because if you think about it, it is the exact same thing. If we turn into a different species of human, then the species that we are right now will sooner or later die out. That's pretty much what happened with all the other human versions of ourselves. Homo sapiens sapiens right now is the only human species walking the planet. It is the only species of human walking the planet. All the others couldn't hack it, either because of the way we set up our civilization, or better yet, because we happen to be the species that was able to adapt to this planet, well enough to keep on going, to propagate our seed and, to keep on, expanding and advancing. That is pretty much our strength, being able to adapt to the world that we're in. It's the way our brains work. It's the way our intelligence seems to be geared. It's geared towards, recognizing patterns all around us and recognizing certain situations and being able to develop tools, whether physical or abstract tools, to deal with it and with each other. And another one of our strengths is the fact that we're social animals. We are only able to succeed as a group rather than as an individualistic force. I know we depend on the powers of the individual, but the powers of the individual is supposed to benefit the society, which is what enables us to live through nature. It's only as a group that we're able to make it, because we are social animals. That's why, if you notice, you put somebody in isolation long enough, they go insane, because we need people around us in order to function properly. So with that said, this question, even though it looks like it's branching off into two different directions, and I do know what you were getting at when you were answering this, so you're basically saying, is humanity itself, is there not just going to be any humans anymore, period? But the way the question is phrased, it seems more like, is it either speciation or our species dies out? And, well, if we go into if we do develop into a different species, then our species died out anyway. Because sooner or later, well, I guess that's debatable. The newer species that pops up, might be willing to deal with Homo sapiens sapiens. just to play around and also to put a smile on the face of all the Marvel Comics readers out there, let's say we develop into Homo sapiens superior. Okay, Homo sapiens superior, might develop the humanity to say that, well, there's nothing. Why can't we live with Homo sapiens sapiens? Just they can live with us. We just, have to cope with two different species. And there's no reason why that can't happen. But then again, considering that right now, well, look at the race realist debate going on right now, and the fact that they're trying to justify being able to put, certain groups of, they're trying to justify that one group is a subspecies of another, even though there really is no scientific evidence of that, and yet they're still trying to say, well, this group of people happen to do this, that, and that, and this, therefore we need to treat them this way and put them in this particular regimen of society. Yeah, that the odds are not really good that, if another species of human actually does develop a real, actual different species, that we'd be able to live in harmony with one another with the type of stupid that we happen to see within our own particular species. So I guess if I want to hurry up with this, because I do need to hurry up with this, I do think that ultimately it's going to end up us developing into a different species. And the reason why I am certain of this is because of the way we are developing right now. For instance, keep in mind that the society that we're living in right now is very, very different from the societies that we used to live in. And here I'm going into the answer that I already gave, though I want to make this short because this has already gotten really, really long. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is basically what I'm getting at. If you look at our older societies, we had more physical, more basic roles based on our genders. Because of the physical attributes of males, our musculature, the fact that we are physically stronger, our testosterone levels, things like that. The male roles were geared more toward aggressive type of positions, and males who were aggressive, alpha types, really strong, being able to stomp on others, defend, warriors, that was more celebrated for a male, and those are the roles that they wanted. And with females, the ones who are willing to stay at home and raise the kids, because, the physical abilities of a female being able, they're the ones who actually, bear the children, and their motherly natures help them to raise the children, keep the home and stuff like that. So they were regulated to that role. But now we're living in a society where that's no longer the case, where the roles are being, blurred. And it's now no longer necessarily fixated on our so-called physical attributes. Now it's more on our mental abilities, where, even though, of course, there are many aspects of society which still depend on our physical skills, but because of our development of technology and certain tools we develop, certain physical skills are no longer needed, are no longer as celebrated. So it's gearing more towards the mental aspects of things. If you notice, the so-called nerd or geek is being more and more elevated because we're now realizing that they can get along in society and advance in society better than the person who developed mostly on just being able to swing their muscles around. Look at the fact that everything is dependent upon computer technology now. Look at the fact that engineers and scientists and such are helping to develop our society is a hell of a lot better. Everything is focusing more towards the mind in many ways. And the human being has to adapt to that, and our society has slowly been adapting to that, even to the points where now people are even beginning to notice that females now, when picking out males, before it was all about how strong and physical and mighty he looked, and we're slowly beginning to get a little bit more geared toward the guy who shows a little bit more of an intellectual streak. That is something that shows that things are shifting a bit. And right now there's this big clash of values here on, males are not exactly sure what their role is supposed to be anymore. Females are, even though they're fighting for rights and they're happy that they're getting roles that they originally weren't getting, they themselves are beginning to get confused in exactly what they want. Things are shifting. And who's to say that this won't affect how we develop as a species? Because it doesn't really take much. All it really takes is environment, and who's the most geared toward living in that environment that helps to determine how a species develop. Now, of course, this isn't going to be happening in a couple of fucking generations. We're looking at like a good several 100,000 years here. Maybe even a few million years. Evolution is a very slow freaking process. But it is lifestyles. Yeah, we also have a bit of longer lifespans as well. So keeping that in mind, it is going to take quite a bit of time before our species can develop into something else. but the prospect is there. We've only been here on this planet for a very short time, and already there's been many rapid changes. And I think that if you couple that with the ability that we can also destroy ourselves rather easily, what with the way we're messing with the environment and nuclear war and things like that, all those parts are going to play a factor in how the human race is going to, develop. I'm not really too sure if I answered your question. I'm realizing here this is a whole lot of speculation and me going, I'm not too sure about this, that, or the other. But if I was forced to pick a guess, I would basically say it's a combination of the two. There is a good chance that humanity could branch off into a different species, but it's going to take a really long time. I don't necessarily see ourselves being completely wiped out, though it could happen. But even then, I'm pretty sure some human beings will be resourceful enough to survive that, and then have to live in a new world where they're going to have to develop the traits in order to live in that new world. But because we happen to be a species that's really, we've developed, adaptation skills, we could, push those skills even further to become something more than what we are now. So I hope that answers the question. That's the best I can give you. Anyway, that's it. If you actually are interested in seeing the answer I gave for what I thought was the question, go check out the non-ADD version of this video where, I'm not going to put this answer. So, yeah. Catch you guys later.